The following podcast is a little fiery but mostly peaceful. If you're an automaton, turn away now and shelter in place. If you're a Catholic ready to renew your prescriptions of red pills and white pills, stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Catholics Aren't Zombies. I'm your host, Chris Munier. Delighted to have you with me again. We've got a real flame broiler of a topic today, and it is holding women accountable. Before I get into that topic, though, I want to address something a little more metaphorical. And I don't know if you've ever heard this bizarre and overused expression, you catch more flies with honey rather than vinegar. I've heard this for years. I think everybody else has. It's very trite. But you know what? Beyond the platitude of it, it's just wrong. It speaks to this idea that everything has to be nicety nice all the time, or nobody will ever learn anything. You never get them on your side. You won't get them to see your point of view on anything. The actual truth of the matter is, if you want to catch fruit flies, if you don't believe me, look it up. If you want to catch fruit flies, you do actually use vinegar. You use something called apple cider vinegar. Think about what's going on there, though. See, it's not like the really pungent vinegar or for that matter, honey on the other end. It's kind of two extremes there. Neither one of those is as effective. You use apple cider vinegar because it's a sort of sweet but not really substance, and that's how you do catch flies. Why am I talking about this? What the hell does this have to do with the cost of tea in China? Well, it's because, as we see with the folks who tend to dominate the discourse these days, it's either all honey or nothing. You're either nicety nice or you will not be listened to by anybody. You'll automatically be shut down. You'll automatically be censored and castigated. And this comes from, some of the good guys, too. This comes from the nicety nice crowd. Most of the time, they have pretty good intentions, but they refuse to hear any other style or any other approach to solving problems. It's always got to be honey. It's always got to be the sweet, softy, nicety nice, touchy-feely approach, or you just can't hear it at all. And I think that's unfortunate. This is something that we get when it comes to the idea of holding women accountable, especially in Catholic land, but everywhere in the society, really. And this is a chapter I have in Caesar Vacantism. Maybe it's my most controversial one, perhaps. I'll let you decide. By the book, Caesar Vacantism, Rendering to Caesar When Caesar Goes Nuts. But see, I suggest, as a way of rebuilding the family and reasserting Catholic culture, we have no choice, but we're going to have to hold women accountable, and we've not been doing that. Because we think it's mean. We think, oh, it's the vinegar. You can't do that. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Well, sorry, guys. Not only is it not mean, but it's biblical. I'm going to give a scripture reading in just a second to verify that. But look, guys, men have to stop shirking on their duty. It's time to hold women accountable. A lot of times, Israel in the Old Testament is likened exactly to a woman that's misbehaving. Let me read to you this example. Here you'll find out that they misbehave and they're rebuked. They receive a chastisement. I think in a lot of ways this is metaphorical to what's going on right now in the world. So I'm quoting from Isaiah chapter 3, verses 16 through 26. Quote, "And the Lord said, Because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and have walked with stretched out necks, and wanton glances of their eyes, and made a noise as they walked with their feet and moved in a set pace, the Lord will make bald the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their hair. In that day the Lord will take away the ornaments of shoes and little moons, and chains and necklaces, and bracelets and bonnets, and bodkins and ornaments of the legs, and tablets and sweet balls and earrings, and rings and jewels hanging on the forehead, and changes of apparel, and short cloaks, and fine linen, and crisping pins, and looking glasses, and lawns, and headbands, and fine veils. And instead of a sweet smell, there shall be stench, and instead of a girdle, a cord, and instead of curled hair, baldness, and instead of a stomacher, haircloth. Thy fairest men also shall fall by the sword, and thy valiant ones in battle. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she shall sit desolate on the ground." Close quote. So yeah, in the history of Israel, it's likened to a woman being chastised. Now we've lost sight of this because we've gone into wimpianity mode since the end of World War II, since the arrival of the Second Vatican Council. It's all nice, it's all bunnies, no tough love on anything. There's a lot of other scriptural examples of how this works in Jerusalem, of women being held accountable. You think of Jezebel getting tossed out the window. That might be the most vivid example. Gentlemen, especially you fathers and husbands, No more happy wife, happy life. This has got to stop. It's effeminate, and it's a sign that you're intimidated. Think about it. This is the only reason this has ever been allowed to occur in the first place. Men are intimidated. They don't want to admit it, but they damn well are. Unruly women, look, it's mostly men's fault. We can get mad at them all we want, but if there ever really was a patriarchy, which there was, it's God-given. If there ever was a patriarchy, how the heck did we lose it? If we had infinite power over women, as they say we used to have, how did we lose it? Well, the only way it could have, if women were never strong enough to take it away, was for us to have relinquished it, and that's exactly what's happened. So what are some concrete examples of women behaving badly and having a horrible impact on society? How about the pornography? Let's start with that one. Nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that, there are a lot of women out there who make porn, and they do it entrepreneurially. I think we've fallen into this trap of this mindset of thinking all the porn out there is made by these rogue pimps, sex traffickers, all the porn that anybody watches. It's made by these evil, wicked doers, and they force women into it. They forced young girls that are not even 15 into it. And although that's part of the story, yeah, I mean, what is it, 80% of the internet is porn? I wouldn't doubt it. Pretty bad place out there. But when you look at the porn that's actually being consumed and watched the most, these porn sites that make the top 50, according to Alexa or some of these websites, some of these organizations that catalog which are the most viewed sites, the porn sites that get in the top 50, top 100, they're these ones where women get on the camera. There's no pimp forcing them. They're not being clubbed over the head. On their own volition to make money, just out of pure vanity sometimes, they get on there and they do it all on their own, just like a YouTube channel, basically. There's something called OnlyFans, then you got something called Chatterbait, and then some of these other awful. I don't recommend you research too thoroughly into them. You won't like what you see. Obviously, you shouldn't go and research porn. Got to be very careful with kids' gloves. But there you have it. It's not like women don't have willpower and they don't have any say-so in the matter. How about abortions? Hate to break it to you guys, every single abortion is committed by a woman. Every single one of them. And very, very, very few of them are involuntary. Very, very, very few of them are the result of incest or rape or some of these other really tragic causes for them. We get caught up in this ugly tendency to think that it's all the doctors. Oh, it's their fault. Oh, it's Planned Parenthood. It's all their fault. Oh, it's Roe v. Wade. Well, okay. But even if we got rid of all that stuff, there's still something very fundamentally wrong in the hearts of women that go and do these things. And then there's this tendency to think, wow, they just got tricked into it, or they got pressured or coerced into it. Really? Okay, but then why is it when the few times that we do any survey research on it, you find out two really consistent and obvious causes for it. A, they'll tell you they're not economically ready for it, or they're not ready for the responsibility for children. Or B, frankly, it'll make them less sexually desirable to other men, and they won't be able to go out and fornicate any longer. Now, we want to ignore these, especially that last one, because we view women as perfect little princesses that can't do anything wrong. Oh, they got the eggs; they're so pure. Every one of them's the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is a joke, and it's an insult. They go and get abortions for selfish reasons. Nobody's holding a gun at their head making them do it. It's not like, you're about to become a martyr. Somebody puts a boot on your head and says, hey, reject God, reject the name of Jesus Christ, or I'm going to drop an anvil on it or something. Something that could legitimately intimidate somebody, and without enough grace, you'd succumb to it and maybe you would reject God. It's not the same situation here with these abortions. No, they're going and getting it. And yes, I agree. They probably have tons of buyer's remorse. They probably have tons of regret. Hopefully, they're supposed to. That's the Holy Spirit talking. Yeah, guilt, shame, and regret. But don't mince words about it. They go and get these all on their own volition. And they do it for selfish motives. Nobody's holding them accountable, with or without Roe v. Wade. Oh, and one other one. How about no-fault divorces? What's the stat on that? I think it's like 75% of no-fault divorces, something Catholics don't believe in, are initiated by women. I wonder why. Well, we could get into how the divorce courts are heavily skewed in favor of women. I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but 75% of them. Okay. Again, it's just more female selfishness. The root problem here, is, as Our Lady of Fatima emphasized, is immodesty too. So even if women can't bring themselves to go and do wretched things like get on OnlyFans, even if they're not going quite that far and making porn or dancing in a strip club, the amount of immodesty that you see out and about in your daily life, just out and about in public, it's almost 99% of women. least 95%, they dress like absolute crap. They wear the bunny buns. They wear the short shorts. As soon as it's over 40 degrees, they're wearing short, skimpy shorts. Women of all ages, I mean, everywhere from 10 up to 60, unless it's freezing cold outside. So even without, setting up a personal porn page, you've indulged all of this immodesty. And again, it's important to remember that Our Lady of Fatima, she didn't specifically warn us about abortion or contraception or even some of these really evil things that are so blatantly awful. No, she started at a much more subtle root of the problem, and it's the immodesty. And men, for several decades now, have had no interest in holding women accountable on it. This could also be directed towards mothers. Do you train your daughters? Do you show them what the standards for dress are? I kind of don't feel bad for some of them. They probably have no exposure to it, especially in 2021. Maybe our culture had some inkling of it back in the 90s, 80s. I don't know. I'm trying to remember, but certainly all that's gone now. And then also for women, there's the sins of omission. See, here's a very interesting thing I don't believe people look at when we talk about the hemorrhaging of the faith or how the participation in the sacramental economy is tanked. We talk about how priestly vocations have gone way down, marriages have gone way down. And with, of course, with the marriages going down, you'd think, oh, well, maybe at least women are discerning a vocation to the religious life more. No, because that's actually declined the most since the late 60s. When everything else was collapsing, that one statistically collapsed the most. There's about 1/4 of the number of religious sisters in America compared to 1970. The fascinating thing about that, though, is that what do we see? We see Susan from the parish council running everything. So it's not like women just disappeared from the church. In fact, they're as abundant as ever, at least in comparison to guys. You go to a church and it's 2-to-1 female to male. So you'd think, oh, okay, well, there's plenty of them that are going to get married and religious life and all that. No, they abscond from those callings. They're legitimate callings. Now they want to be parish managers. Now they want to be the priest. It shouldn't surprise anybody that we're talking about female ordination. So women, by sins of omission, giving up and failing to answer their calls to be wives, mothers, consecrated religious, and instead this awful aping of the whole thing by going and pretending to be men in the parish setting. Daddy's little princess is obnoxious, and that's where we've gotten with this. There's a whole bunch of Veruca Salts running around. They need some discipline. And look, if you think this is being too harsh, let's look at it from women's perspectives just for a minute. Are they happy with this state of affairs, with the way things have been for the last several decades? Again, I'd kind of draw back to World War II. It's about when things started to change. We got comfortable. We discarded every possible inkling of suffering. Oh no, can't do that anymore. Has this benefited women? Are they really happy? Well, there's all kinds of data that would suggest emphatically no. Female depression is up, especially when they hit about 40. If you're a woman and you hit about 40 and you haven't gotten married, you haven't become a nun, you haven't fulfilled any of the traditional roles that women tend to occupy, a lot of them go nuts. They're depressed. They may not show it immediately out and about, but they go home. They've got cats. That's all they got. They have no children. Nobody's going to visit them in the nursing home. Maybe nobody even visits them on their deathbed. Are women happy? Do women really want this? And sometimes when you interview them or you talk to some of the more honest ones, the ones with a little bit of traditional inclination, they'll tell you they want men to step up. They want real men in their lives. So it's kind of a schizophrenia for them in that on one hand, they want that rah-rah, women can do it all, there's nothing that can stop us feminist crap. But on the other side, deep down, there's that other side of the equation where, to put it bluntly, they would like to be put in their place. Because that is the natural order of things. I know you can't say it anymore. I know if you so much as reference St. Paul's message about men being the head of the household, you get lambasted and, you got to go hide in a corner, tail tucked between your legs. Look, reality is reality. It hasn't changed, not in 2,000 years, not in 50 years. It's gotten to the point where men are afraid to invoke their God-given authorities as head of the household, and this is even in traditional homes. But don't let that happen to you. Don't get stunk in a functionally gay marriage. What's a functionally gay marriage? Well, for one thing, it's when both spouses are working. You do this, everybody's equal on everything. Everybody's got an equal say, veto power. Sometimes the woman makes a decision, sometimes the men. Look, yes, on certain things, but come on. Ultimately, it's got to be the guy who has the final say. That's how it's always been. You can him and haw and get mad at me all you want. And you can talk about the feels and get mad. You can sing that little song. That's not nice. That's not nice. That's not charitable. You're a racist. You're a racist. Go ahead. I have no idea what the heck racist would have to do with anything, but I know that's typical refrain. Do that all you want. But we're all going to be miserable until we figure out how to stop rolling over dead like the baby boomer husbands and fathers and get serious about things. You got to hold women accountable because guess what? You got to hold everybody accountable. Think about what it's like when we don't hold men accountable or we don't hold young boys accountable to anything in life. They go nuts. They turn into carjackers. They turn into degenerates. Maybe even on an extreme level, they end up in San Francisco, shooting up heroin and living the hardcore gay lifestyle in the Castro district. I know these things are not pleasant to think about, or people don't want to embrace the reality of this, but this is exactly what happens when you don't have any appreciation for consequences in life. Accountability is a consequence. All right, so with that said, let's stop giving women the benefit of the doubt on everything, including porn, abortion, immodesty. No, for their sake as well as anybody else's, let's crack down on it. Let's get real. Let's get mean if we got to a little bit. A little tough love, Why not? St. John Vianney would recommend tough love. Let's get back to that. We've got better times ahead of us, but only if we embrace some of the tough medicine. And remember, you don't catch more fruit flies with honey than vinegar. Apple cider vinegar. Strike that middle ground. Stop with nicety nice on everything. That's all I got, guys. Buy my book, Caesar Vacantism. Check out all my other episodes. We're going to keep doing these 3 times a week. If you got any questions, send me an email. Be happy to help you. Let me know if you need anything from me. Let me know if you got any topic suggestions. I'll tackle anything as long as it's not above my pay grade. I'll go after any issue as long as I can. And if I can't, I'll let you know. I'm fair. All right, guys. Have a good one. Deus Vult. Cue the music.